Okay, she's ready for delivery. The bottom's up there in the very front. This is the top. It's a 28-inch wide ladder. It's 12 foot long. And I spent a lot of time stabilizing cracks and stuff. And filling in little cracks and trying to find places where you can get the splinters. It's not perfect, but it's getting closer. It needs to be hand sanded, but it's a log cabin, so it is what it is. I try to make it a little rougher in some respects, and so there we go. Looks like I don't really need to make a repair on it. These boards here had a natural curve in them like this. I thought I'd leave that in there. Of course, after I did that, then it was a mistake. But anyway, so we're working on it, and we'll see what we can do with it. I'm gonna have to repair it. Who knows? Anyway, there it is, ready to go. Well, you guys that have the big shops where you can just take off and go out and start doing whatever it is that you do. And these little garage shops, well, you might be involved in a church scouting group called Royal Rangers and just had a big field day. Or you might be playing with the dog and have to have a few toys out there with him. Or you might be doing something else with some wood and whatever. So back there in the corner right there is a whole bunch of oak that we resawed off of our property, our church Royal Ranger group property. It's a district like the state of Missouri, southern Missouri. And we cut those trees down about a year and a half ago. And then I took them to a bandsaw mill and I helped cut them up into boards. And then about a month ago, I resized them down and got the bark off of them and kind of resized them down to where they're kind of usable. And now I'm getting ready to put them together. So in that respect, I've been in on the computer on VCarve drawing up some stuff. And here are some of the plans that I've kind of come up with. My stairs, basically what I'm doing is going to build a mirror copy of a step ladder. All the step ladders pretty much follow the same layout, angles, and everything. And basically the bottom is 18 degrees. They're at a foot step. Each step is at a foot. So that's 36 inches and so on, all the way to the top. And of course these are made to be portable, so they're wider at the bottom to the top. Mine won't be that way. Mine will just be one specific angle all the way to the top. But it's going to be about 24 inches wide, which will be about down here a little bit wider than that down at the bottom. And then it'll go up and it'll lock up into the loft of a log cabin that we're making. And the log cabin's up. We're just making this just to fit. So this ladder has some of the same traits of the step ladder, except I'm going to be doing my stairs just a little bit different. They're going to come in with a dovetail joint, and the stair treads, the part you step on, will be flat. And they're going to have a dovetail cut in the center of it. The weakest point will be about 1 inch wide at the very weakest, and they'll be about 1.5 inches thick. So that will be there. And then in this void, we'll come in with a 3/4 inch piece or 1/2 inch piece of oak, and it will slide down and lock those in and slide in. These are approximately 12 inches in length. They're cut at an angle, and they're also cut at a degree angle to match, so they'll fit in between each stair tread and lock them into position and with a dowel. And then I'll come back after the ladder's put together and glued. I'll lock them in with I'll lock these in with a dowel where the stair treads is just probably a 5/8 inch dowel or something, just to shoot one in so that it looks pegged. And anyway, that should give me a pretty strong ladder. I've looked on the web, and some of them are, they make the stuff all the time out of 3/4 inch. So this is all going to be made out of that 1.5 inch stuff in oak, and it should be good to go. So that's what my project is. But now I've got to move all my stuff get it out of the way, get my oak out there and start going to it. But the good thing is everything's on wheels. So it's all on wheels. It's just a matter of moving it around, getting to it, and getting it out there where I can work on it. And it'll probably lay out here in the center of the world for a while until I get it cut up next 2 or 3 days. And replace the weed eater head. I got tired of bumping this all the time on the ground and it not coiling out. And I have wound it, watched every video on it, and you know, unless you just soak it in silicone, it just, I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. So I went out and got this Duracut, and it takes these, or it takes sections of that, and you just cut a bunch of them, stick them in there, and it's pretty sweet. I'd mowed and weeded a bunch yesterday and used maybe 2 of them little strings. They go in, only go in one way. There's no moving parts. It just slides in. There's a little jaw shark teeth in there that hold it in place, and you just keep pushing it in. And you get ready, and it gets too short. You just stick one in there, and out it comes in the middle of the head, right here. And you can just reach in there and grab that thing, and pull them out and stick them back in there if you wanted to. But anyway, that's the gist of that deal. So. But yeah, small shops, all kinds of cool stuff. And let me get back to the woodworking. Well, after a few minutes, putting some other stuff up, moved some stuff out of the way, and now we're getting real close to getting this stuff out here. Had that sticker drying. I did just have it over in the corner, laying it back here for the last year and a half, and about 2 months ago I stickered it out here in the last just to give it a little more air. I wanted to kind of keep it together, but we'll see what kind of shape it comes out as. So let's get that thing out and get it to where we can access it. Alright, well, at least I've got a 18 to 20 inches of my garage floor back out here in the middle. Now I've got all that moved out into the driveway. As you can see, my yield wasn't near what I wanted it to be. I wasn't clear enough on the cuts. I had the logs out, and I said I need a 2x4 board out of that one. I need a 2x4 board out of that one. I need a 2x3 out of this one, 2x3 out of this one. Well, my cellular was more trying to get wood out of the logs and give me the boards that I want. So I got more boards out of it, but they're not quite wide enough, and some of them got the bark in it. But anyway, if I wanted to do it all myself, then I would just get myself a bandsaw mill and do it that way. But as it is, I'm thankful that we got the boards and got them cut. My dimensions are down a little bit from what it is, but they're still plenty solid for the ladder itself. And got a couple of beams out here that are pretty solid for the ladder rails, and they'll come out just fine looking. I've got little roughs on the edges on them to leave them that way. I think I may trim them down just a little bit and maybe take a ½ inch or so off of them so that they're not quite as bulky, and get them down to maybe 2 inches. So they're about 2 5/8 right now in the width of them. Then again, I could join them and glue them together and try and get some more wood out of it that way. And I've got to cut my stringers, my handrails, and my spacer boards out of that stuff. So we'll see what we get out of it. And anyway, there's the old shop now that it's all organized and disorganized. Probably bring the chop saw out here and get it out here and cut up to the length that I need them, and I'll do that. Get my 6 boards out and then probably laminate the rest of them. So here's my helper today. It's like the 2nd or 3rd, 4th day of fall, and it's still in its 80s degrees outside, so it's still a little warm. I'm sitting there soaking in sweat already, and so there I am, and we'll ponder this a little while, and then we'll get out with and make something out of it. All right, well, moved the machines that I probably aren't going to need right off the bat back towards the back corner and shifted them back. Left all the tools that I probably will need out here at the front. Repositioned the tables that go up and down. Getting ready to take the two runners, lay them out at a foot each step or run or whatever you want to call it. Laid them out. 9 of them go up. They're a little, just right at 12 feet, maybe an inch over. And I'll cut 18 degree off the bottom. And first thing I need to do is cut them square though. But anyway, so they'll land out, and then I'm going to cut some of the rungs here and get them configured. So let's get busy with that and get this smoothed out of the way so I'm not walking on it. All right, I thought, well, my shop is going to put me out right in front of the table, so I'm going to be using that with some tenon jigs and cutting some of those dovetails. A lot of work on a table saw, so I moved this towards the back of the shop, which is not very far from there, but I did move it to the back, and we'll scooch it over that way. Use the two tables, they easily roll, so it wasn't that big of an issue. Here's my stairs. There's 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 9 down through here. And these are in the position like if you're facing it going up the ladder, that's that. So I'll take that dimension, and then my rungs need to stay within 30 inches. And I'm going to cut those out right now. Okay, there are my 9 steps. They're going to go in here. I marked the centers first, and then went 3/4 on each side. And then I've measured between here and here, each rail. These are 1.5 inches, so I've got to make that dimension exact. And then this filler piece will be made out of a 1/2 inch piece of oak, and it'll fit in between each stair tread, top and bottom, with a dovetail joint that locks them in. And so I've got to make 18 of those. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Anyway, there's 9 steps, so I probably need to make a little bit more than 18. And they'll fill in between the risers. And this is all really, well, it's rough wood, so, you know, I'm trying to make it to where I don't have to plane it any more than I have to. I want the roughest part of it to go. Trying to make that dimensions out there. Those are the 1/2 inch parts. I've made them about 3 foot long. I'm going to resaw them on my bandsaw. A 1/2 inch level, there'll be about 3/4 inch, and I'll plane the one side and try and leave the other side out. And there's my boards are getting down to fewer and fewer. So I'm going to get the old bandsaw out now. It's right back there. Wheel it out and see if we can get that one to going. Well, I was 3/4 of the way full on this, and the way I know is I just slide this up and I hold that light over the top and look down in there. If I can see I'm up to about right here, then I go ahead and change it. And I was up to that point a little bit far. If I let it go over, it puts dust in this bag. If I don't let it go over, I'd get almost no dust. None in that bag for years. So, but every now and then I'll get lazy and have to clean that out. So, anyway, that's part of it. Well, there's the old shop vac set up. I'm ready to resaw that and see what we can do with it. All right, I'm wanting to end up with a 1/2 inch piece. Basically, what I'll do is make it 3/4, and then whatever planing I need to do to try and true it up. It's not critical on these boards. However, the part of the dovetail does remain on that, so I do want to get it pretty close to 3/4. And the ends of these boards that I'm cutting will bevel down into the stringers or the steps and to lock them into place. So there's the old bandsaw, and we'll get to the resawing. All right, the reason I chose this board is the length of 12 feet. It had a high and a low twist in it and a cup. I mean, this is the primo of the primo. I mean, it was just, it was going every which direction, every way. So I thought I would cut it into the shorter pieces. That way I can get the most use out of the wood. And there's the 3 pieces that I've cut out. It's moving all right through there. It's not perfect, but the blade has resawed a bunch of oak, and but you've seen boards get resawed, so there we go. All right, well, I got the stair treads cut down to a dimensional size. I need to plane the back side that won't be seen and get it down to the thickness I need. 2 rails, got them laid out. I'm going to need to plane the inside of this so that when I glue those up to it, that I'll get a good glue joint, and then those will stay together. And then I glued up these pieces that fit in between here and here. Got them resawed down. I've got to run them through the planer and clean up one side, and then I got to cut a compound bevel on this one. One edge is 30 degrees and the other one is 18 degrees. So that's at an 18-degree angle, so it'll be a little bit different. Got to figure that one out just yet. And yeah, so that was a good day for today. Probably about 3 hours worth of work, cleaning it up and getting it rounded, and I got a lot of work done, but cleaned the shop just a little bit, but not too much. And there we go, on to taking a break. All right, I'm taking all these parts that go in between the stringers, between the rungs, or if you call them. I'm taking them all down to 1/2 inch, run them through the planer. I had resawed them on the bandsaw down to 3/4, and then I'm planing them down on one side. The other side I'm leaving rough, so that it has that log cabin. The inside would be for glue up when it goes against the rail, and so that's what I'm doing there. I did get the stair treads all planed down to 1.5 inches, so they're all now planed down. Also left them rough on one side, and so there they are. So all right, we're making a little headway. As always, when you're planing and doing lots of chip removal, you get clogs. And this one here have a tendency to get clogged up in here. This is shooting oaks. They say if you get a one of them newfangled blades that they won't clog so fast, but this was just white oak. And I planed quite a bit off of that. And this wood is air dried, so it's a little brittle. Mainly it's getting little bitty chunks, splits in there, little bitty pieces, and they get caught up in that little impeller, and then clogs up right here. So most of the clogging is right here. It's picking up. It just there was a big chunk that was let down here in this impeller, and it was just kind of laying across there. So anyway, when it starts putting a bunch of dust out here in the front, you know that it's clogged. And of course, the first thing you want to do is just to check this, make sure that it doesn't have dust in it, which you can tell when that has dust in it by how heavy it is. And that bucket's probably about half full just from planing today and those amount of boards. So anyway, we'll get underway. All right, after some mighty thoughtful thoughts, I just planed these down to 2 inches. I was just really wanting to get this thickness uniform across there. And I'm now contemplating whether I want to plane that top edge. However, I do want my outside edges to be rough sawn, which they are, but these inside edges are now planed for glue. The outside edges are rough sawn for appearance sakes. So I have that part gone. This is the top part. I am going to have a glue joint here on this. Most of this has already been jointed except for a little bit at the top or at the very bottom. So I may leave it a little bit rough. Would love to just plane this all down to dimensions, but that's not what I'm after today. Anyway, planer did a nice job after I cleared that little log jam. That it was 3 times as clean as that was right now, or when it was working. So does a good job of cleaning it up, except when it gets plugged. As always, clean up. I did have a bunch of sawdust, probably about a half a bucket worth of sawdust out there. Got this thing ready to park back in this little parking spot. I'll pull the table saw out and start making some joints. Alright, I'm going to cut these all off at just a hair under 24 inches. So what I've done is I've locked my fence in. I put a little spacer block down here at the setup point. Then I'll run them through there, and that'll put them all the same length. They're pretty close, but let's get them right. Alright, what I'm doing is I've got a stop set over there. Got the tape measure, clamp on the end of it. Little deal there, just kind of keep moving up and down. Now it sets to my depth of cut at 1/2 inch. And my blade set at 1/2 inch. That leaves me 1/2 inch in the middle for a dovetail. So I'm running that and I flip it. I cut the other end of it off on the saw tip spread. Alright, well, it took me a little while to figure out how to put this thing together. I need about 10 more hands to do this. I tried assembling the wrist of rungs independently, then I was going I'm going to get out of angle with them. So then I stepped back from that, but I'm gluing these as I go. These pieces here are rough on the outside, but they're jointed on the inside, so that'll make a good glue joint. Then they're tied in here with a little bit of a joint, and yeah, I'm trying to keep them tight, but I'm having a little bit of issues. It's not as good as what I want it to be, but they're coming out, and we'll see how she works there. So that was our first 2 rungs. I'll slide the next one. We'll just work it up down through there and just clamp it as we go, and see how she works out. So there we go. Well, there it is, glued up. It's a 12-foot ladder. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 steps. The bottom needs to be cut off at 18 degrees. There's the detail on my joint. I'm planning on running a peg through it, and just for the sake of it, just to give it some old-fashioned peggery. Thought about running one down through in here as well, but who needs it? These are glued right here. It's all 1/4-inch oak. The shear power of them, I'll pull that off. You're gonna have to tear out a 1/2 inch of oak, multiplied times a bunch, so I don't think that thing will go anywhere. So there it is. And some of my joints were not as tight as the other ones, and it kind of creeped up on me. By the time I started out here on center, I probably lost maybe about 1/8 of an inch on each one of these, just because of not drawing them up as tight as I needed to. So when I got up to the top step up there, I had about 1 inch. So they're like 12. This one down here is at 12. That's 12 full, 12 and 1/8. You know, but they're all basically the same step. It's just that it's moved up the rail just a little bit from the very top. So, but they're still right at 12 inches. And they're plumb. I had to keep it plumb while I was building it. And I had cut these out, and I wanted them just a little bit tight, and I got tired of fighting that, so went and got a new blade for the Delta and just fine sanded them to where they'd slipped in, and I didn't have to fight them. If there's enough of a fight to try and get them in there. But anyway, that's a ladder. I don't think it'll go anywhere. I mean, I don't think it's gonna break or anything. I've got to take a grinder or belt sander and knock the edges off just a little bit. I will be putting a top rail or a handrail here on the top of this coming out, and for them to hang on to. I left this finished smooth so that I could glue to it, and this is rough sawn. So I let the outsides all rough sawn. The stair treads, most of them are rough sawn as well, just to on the front and the back, to try and get them to where it'll look pretty rustic. And there you go. I need to trim it out a little bit, and I'll let this set overnight and dry up, and then we'll have be working on the handrail tomorrow. This is the material I have left over for the handrail. Yeah, should be enough there to come up with something. Now I've got to make a couple brackets for tying it in at the top. Not real sure what I'm going to do there. This handrail thing is probably going to, there'll be one on each side, and it'll be something. I've got some ideas on it, so it'll be a project just like this one was. So, but anyway, it's coming together. There's a little of my scrap boards. I was going to use a dovetail, and at the angle and everything, the dovetails, that I wasn't getting this much strength out of them as I wanted. So I thought, well, the hassle of them, so I just put the tenons in there, and figured I would have a little more luck on that, a little more strength on that. So there you go. I think I'm gonna go inside and rest up. All right, this is what I have left for this morning after last night's glue up. There it is. And there's the dog over there wanting to get her toy out. So I'm going to take all the clamps off here and see what we got. All right, this white oak's tougher than nails. Drilling a hole down through there, not quite going all the way through, so it'll be smooth on the other side. Our plan is to cut this in half and make it a handrail. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more holes to drill. Might be a little bit more than this drill press can get. It's laboring, so I have to go kind of slow. There you go. All right, got all the holes drilled on the other side. Now I'm going back through and I'm drilling out these little holes. There's a little bitty hole here and there, and that's cutting through the back side. Probably got to go about maybe 3/8 of an inch. Get down to it. This oak is something else. I've been drilling on this for about 20 minutes. There you go. All right, I just got through ripping that 2 by 3 3/4 inch board down the center, and used the feather board, and that's all oak, and that's part of my handrail. I've got to cut out the center parts of it and see how that works. I thought, well, easier for me to do it with a saw and that way. So we'll get those cut out and then planed and good shape. So there we go. All right, I got a little ahead of myself on the resaw, but I didn't want to have to get that thing out after I did this. Anyway, I did resaw, just clamp them back together, and I'm going to cut these slots out right here. And that'll leave a spot to keep them joined together. And the ladder doesn't need handrails all the way to the floor. It only needs it up to about 3 feet and coming up. So your first one will be about belly button height for hanging onto it. And there it is. I'm going to take that skill saw and see what will cut through that oak. All right, the next thing I ought to do is got to plane this down and make that handrail smooth. And that will glue up to this after I get it sanded down just a little bit, get rid of the pencil marks and that kind of thing. Got the ends cut off. I need to sand them a little bit with a belt sander, but not too much. And it's coming around. I'm going to run it through the old planer and clean it up. Since it is a handrail, I'm going to have that part of it fairly clean. Alright, after shredding about 15 of them belts trying to sand this white oak on that little belt sander, as you can see, there's all kinds of shredded belts. I probably shredded 8 belts. Found I tried 80 grit, 120 grit, 100 grit. So then I broke out the grinder because I was trying to get these to grind down a little bit flat and then get on these inside edges. So that worked out much better. It's 10 times faster is to do that. And I've got a flat sander. I may go ahead and just work that up on this thing. I'm going to go ahead and get these pencil marks off and hit that just a little bit. And there you go. Well, that's kind of how I want to do it. The handrail came out a little thinner than I wanted it to be. I may try and glue something a little on the top of it. I don't know. This is all just some white pine on a ladder board. Of course, it's got brackets and it's got these bolts that go all the way across the top of them. But if you look at the rabbets that are inside there, little dados, they're maybe not even a 1/4 inch deep probably. If you was to look at them, handrail that they've got up here is just a little bit of 1 by 2 or 3/4 by 1 and 3/4, and so not much of a support for a handrail. And anyway, so there's your stairs going up the attic. I guess if this don't do it, that might need to be the next project. There we go. All right, I put a 5/4 inch by 5 inch Spax screw with a 3/8 inch head at the top of it. and I'm running that all into the oak. It's all the holes are pre-drilled with a 3/16, and it's got a 3/8 head on it. I've got them glued. I'm going to go ahead and glue it and set it in there, so it'll be a done deal when I get done with it. All right, well, I decided I better stiffen up that top rail just a little bit, so got two of the best boards I could get. They're still a little curved. I run a channel over the top of that, and it'll set over the top of that, and I'll glue it over, and it'll cover up the bolts down there, and put some glue on it and get it done. I've got to round off all the edges with the router and put this little shim stock in here to keep the router from gouging in, and so I'll do that and get that done. All right, I was running the router right around there, and it took a big old chunk out of about 3 or 4 inches, so I had to put in a new piece in there, and I'm going to sand it and router it out, and that was about 20 seconds before I was about to finish that, so it took me about an hour to get that fixed. All right, I put some dowels in there. Been going around stabilizing some of the cracks with some CA glue. Any place that I get a splinter, I'm just kind of filling it and putting a little bit of goo in there to make it. I'm going to go back over it with the sander, and so yeah, there it is. There's the handrail detail, and it came out pretty good looking. Looks like something would go in the log cabin. Stronger than an ox, but yeah. So anyway, I got to grind it off a little bit with that flap sander on that grinder wheel, and then hit it with the sander. Sand that dowel off a little bit. It's one of these things here. It's a 60 grit flapper belt, and it's it'll flat take it down fast. So there we go. And be ready to go. You guess what? You want me to throw that again, huh? At the 50,000th time. And there you go.